Very good afternoon and very warm welcome back. I hope all of you enjoyed your lunch. Sleepy, everybody's sleeping. Please wake up. We have one more session left. So the third session is the extra fine cotton market by 2020, and it is chaired by Mr. Jules Reinhardt. Jules Reinhardt, together with his cousin Thomas Reinhardt, owns Paul Reinhardt AG, the family cotton trading company founded in 1788 and headquartered in Winterthur, Switzerland. Jules graduated from the University of Zurich in 1984 with a Master of Law. After gaining some experience in France, he began trading career working for Marbridge AG and Filbro Energy in Switzerland and abroad. He joined the family company in 1989 and served in various capacities and positions before joining the board of management for Paul Reinhardt AG in 1995. He was appointed to this ICA board of directors in 2010. Jules lives in Winterthur, Switzerland with his wife Johanna. They have 3 children, Lawrence, Adrian, and Helen. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Jules Reinhardt, please? Over to you, sir.
Thanks very much for your introduction. Okay. All right. Thanks very much for your kind introduction. This afternoon we have the panel on ELS and its future with prospective year of 2020. Now in this panel, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Mani Ginaswani. Each one of the panelists will say a few words afterwards to his career and his position. I will just quickly go through all of them. You have Brett Reinhardt. It's not my cousin, not related. He's from Boswell in California. As we know, Mr. Wino from Wellspun here in India. On my right is Mr. Leheta, one of the large exporters of Egyptian cotton. And next to me, Mark Leskowitz from Supima. Now, Mr. Leheta, you start a few words to your person and whom you represent.
First of all, I need to say thanks to Mr. Galen that he gave me the chance to be here in India, my second country, and to be very honest, I'm feeling here that I'm with my family and I have so many friends in India. Let's talk about myself. I'm the chairman of Trasco for Import and Export. It has been founded by my father. He was in 1990. He was the chairman of Ecotex twice. I was the chairman of Alexandria Commercial and Catgo and Eastern Company. And I joined my father in the cotton trade on 2003. And after my father passed away in 2005, I'm the chairman now of Trasco, and thanks God for support of my friends in all the world. We are now taking good care for export for Egyptian visa cotton. Thank you.
And good afternoon, and thank you for Mr. Shet for putting together this conference. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and be part of this distinguished panel. My name is Mark Lukowitz. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer for Supima. I've been with the organization now for 13 years and started the industry back in 1990 with my father in a cotton gin down in Paraguay. I've been working through the merchandising field until I arrived at Supima. Supima is a promotional organization for American Pima cotton. We work with brands and retailers to promote and identify the fiber that is used in their products directly to the consumer.
Good afternoon. I thank the association for bringing me to be part of this panel and speak to you. I'll be speaking to you as a user of the superfine cottons. I'm Vinod, taking care of the cotton purchase at Welspun. Previously, having with Arvind, another large textile mill in India. Also worked briefly in Africa, and I look forward to contributing in this panel. Thank you.
My name is Brad Reinhardt, and I must echo my counterpart's thank to Dhiren. He is, he's a fabulous agent, and I can tell that he has must have quite a support staff to put this entire event together, because I know he spent the last couple of days with me, and to see how well this is run, you must have a very good crew. I handle the Pima cells for the J.G. Boswell Company. I've been in this position for 3 years. My background, I've been with the company for 10 years total. My background is as a accounting analyst for the first 7 years, and I transitioned into the marketing department about 3 years ago. For those that don't know, the J.G. Boswell Company is a vertically integrated farmer in the San Joaquin Valley. We grow Pima cotton. In addition to Pima, we grow tomatoes, alfalfa, safflower, and more recently pistachios. And being vertically integrated, we have a joint venture with Phytogen Seed Company. We own all the farmland, and we have 3 gens where we gen our cotton, and we are also the shipper, so we maintain control of the cotton throughout the entire supply chain.
Vanakkam and good afternoon to one and all here. I am Mani Chinnaswamy. I am a 3rd generation cotton ginner from south of India, Podachi town. And we've been associated with extra long staple cotton ever since our inception in 1946. That's when MCU5, DCH and Suvin was introduced in India. And I've been myself put in 25 years behind cotton. And I was always fascinated with Suvin, the story behind it, the heritage behind it. So Suvin has its home in Tamil Nadu. From 30,000 bales, it went down as low as 500 bales. So we are trying to revive it. And thanks to the Cotton Association of India, the platform that it offered us last year with the launch of Suvin Ratna, people like me and people like Velayudham, who was the morning that brought to the fore. So I'm so happy and very privileged to be on the stage, and I got an identity thanks to Cotton Association of India again. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to all of you. Now let's go into our subject. ELS production has tended to be lower and been reduced over the last 10 years by almost 40%. And I would say our first question to the panelists is, what was the reason that we have seen this dramatic reduction of production, and how do they see the future, the next 4 years till we reach 2020 of production? Do they see a chance that we can go back to the level where we were, 700,000 tons about around the world, or have the circumstances, whether government influences and others, changed that much that we will never reach that level again? I would like to start with Brett, yes, being a very large producer and coming from California, still one of the largest producing areas of Pima.
So the J.G. Boswell Company, historically, we produce 20 to 30% of the entire U.S. Pima production, and we're based 100% in the San Joaquin Valley. We have 2 ranches between Fresno and Bakersfield. So, as Jörg mentioned, California usually, on average, produces about 80% of the entire U.S. Pima production. So what happens in California is key to the overall production figures. And more recently in California, it's a story of two different things. Number one is trees, and number two is water. Trees first. So the economics, or let me back up. In the San Joaquin Valley, it's a very unique growing. It has very unique growing conditions. It's arid in the summer. There'll be 8 months of the year where we see zero rainfall, and as a result, it's perfect for growing ELS cotton or Pima because you need that type of climate. But it's also very good for growing pistachios and almonds. And the thing to remember with pistachios and almonds is that once you start an orchard of pistachios, that ground is taken out of production for maybe 80 to 90 years. And for almonds, you're looking at 20 to 30 years. It's a very significant time period that we're talking about. So given the recent economics, it makes sense for these farmers to grow these permanent crops. And second, I mean, you mentioned the last 4 years how ELS production has decreased. California is in the midst of a very severe drought. We're in our 4th year. And the way the permanent crops play a role in that is that in a drought year, if you have row crops and you don't have sufficient water, you can say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna leave this ground fallow this year. But you don't have that option with permanent crops. Every single year, you have to apply water to those acres to keep them alive. And given the amount of the profitability of the farmers that are growing the permanent crops, they can very easily afford to pay for the water to keep these crops alive. So it's been at the expense of row crops, and including Pima. And another key thing is you mentioned government intervention in politics. Water in California is at the forefront of the state. And not to get into too many details, but there's very strict environmental regulations in California for endangered species. So the first 40% of water or precipitation that falls in California, the first 40% goes to sustaining the environment. The next 40% or the next 20% will go to residential, and the remaining 40%, what's left, will go to the farmers. So even though we're in a very, very severe drought, it's been exacerbated by the politics of trying to sustain the endangered species and the species of concern in California. So where are we going to be in 2020? It's hard to say. A lot of it's going to depend on the drought. El Nino, we thought El Nino was going to be a big year this year. It turned out not to be too much. But whatever, the key thing is that whatever the price of Pima is, it's going to have to compete with permanent crops if we want to maintain acreage.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Now let's move to the other side, to Egypt. A country which has seen a reduction by 2/3 in the last years, from 150,000 to about 50,000 tons. Perhaps you can say a few words why this happened, and is there a chance that in Egypt, where we have so many other issues, food issues, that you can go back to 100,000 in Egypt, for example, in 2020?
Okay. First of all, everybody knows that 30 years, the crop was around 500,000 tons. Because of the cotton, it was only for the public sector. There was 6 companies that they were buying the cotton from the farmer, and they gave them a rate guarantee, and the farmer this time he was making a big profit. Starting from the 90s, there is public sector and private sector, and the price for the farmer, it wasn't worth it, so the planted area started to decrease. What can I say now is that, as you know, the crop of this season is around 55,000 tons, and it was a very small crop. And everybody knows that the last 5 years there was a situation in Egypt was very bad, where you were having 3 presidents, and the government was changing every 6 months. And to be very honest, the quality also the last 3 years wasn't good at all, because there is nobody from the government was looking for the farmer if he is mixing the seed or not. But thanks God, in the future, finally this season the government they make a new strategy. And you are asking, sir, about 2020, what will be the situation? I need to ask you, why 2020? Why not 2018? Why not 2022? Okay, by the way, even I don't know my wife what she's going to cook tomorrow. So, no, we are expecting that the quantity, I will tell you next season, because we took the original seed cotton, and we plant this year a small area, and we'll take this original seed cotton and we'll plant all the crop next season. It will be from this original, and we are expecting the crop will be between around 110 to 120,000 tons with a good quality for Giza 86, even for Giza 87, the planted area will increase, and also Giza 88 and Giza 93, and there is a new variety like Giza 94, everything it will be inshallah with a good quality, and the price will increase, and the farmer will be able to make a profit in the next few years.
Okay, thanks. You have reached your goal in 1 year. Now I like to give the word to India. How you see that? Especially you are the specialist in sowing. I know very small, but perhaps you have a view on general DCH and ELS.
A few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, South Indian Cotton Association brought out a vision document in that they claimed India would need about 600,000 to 900,000 bales of ELS cotton in about 10 to 15 years' time. In spite of us producing only 1/3 of it, neither the farmer gets a remunerative price, nor the Jinnah gets a remunerative price, neither the mills are happy with the price they could get for the yarn. So that what has led into is adulteration of cotton, and where our beautiful fibers are lost in character. Nobody would even recognize what our fibers can do. We have ELS cotton fibers. I'm not talking about soy, I'm talking about ECH type of fibers which can spin up to 140 count. But those are lost because they don't get the price, and to make it happen, we adulterate and mix it up. So this somewhere we've lost our narrative. I feel the communication design is wrong, the product innovation is wrong. When we're talking about from 60-40 ratio to 28 in polyester to cotton, so we're already moving into a niche space. And what should be the torchbearer for the world to recognize cotton is beautiful, cotton has got a touch and feel? It's the ELS. So we forgot to tell that story to the world and stem this rot. I feel it's now time people are looking at more of polyester, they're sick and tired of it, and probably they're looking at something beautiful, niche. We are looking at the count ranges going up high and high. Every year we see 800 TC and 1000 TC bed linen coming out, and people are lapping up to it. So I feel if the narrative is changed, I feel there will be a revival of ELS cotton in India.
Okay, very good. You built a bridge to the consumer side, which I will give to my left and right, with the question, what factors really are needed and will for the increase of consumption of ELS on the consumer side? Let's say, what do they influence to buy more ELS in as a mill, or how you see it from a SUPIMA, from an association?
Thank you. On the factors, what would influence ELS cotton buying? One of the main is the product range. what products the market is accepting. And also the technology what has changed over the years. These are the two main reasons. And as you see, at least the quality of medium staple cotton has improved over the years in India. And also the technology in addressing handling the ELS cottons. So, but we are seeing a trend where the demand for ELS fine cottons coming back in home textiles and in apparels in India. Mainly because of the quality of the end product what is being demanded. Now, what the spinners or the users are facing, at least in India, is that the ELS cotton is all about exclusivity, about branding of the cotton, what you promise the customers. And we were talking about production of ELS cotton in India. Now, there was a campaign made in India, and our producers got enthusiastic and they started really making in India, mixing in cotton, so that they needed to prove that they are really making ELS cotton in India. The production numbers are nowhere near actual production figures what is being published, and real genuine stuff is missing, and the users, the ultimate consumers are the people who are suffering because of this, and the farmers are not getting the price what they used to get 5 years back compared to the medium staple cotton. The ratio has come down. That is something which needs to be addressed, and we'll come back to the solutions and how to increase the ELS production.
Let me go back one step to talk a bit about what happened to demand. And I think a component of that is simply the fact that there's been a lot of volatility in the ELS price market. We've seen prices that went over $3 a pound, and we saw prices that went down below $1 a pound and back up over $2 a pound. And during those phases, the brands and retailers have forced an issue to try and reduce costs during those phases. As a result, a lot of the mills became a little bit more creative in terms of the product that they were making. We found in the implementation of some new technology, with compact spinning, that allowed better quality medium count fibers to be used for finer count yarns in the 80s and 100s. And some of that opportunity was lost in that segment. As Vinod was saying, we are now beginning to see a resurgence back in demand for quality products that will require ELS fibers to be utilized in the various fabrics, whether it's home textiles or apparel. And from our side, as a Supima organization, we are actively engaged with those brands and retailers to help them brand and identify and tell a better story, because ultimately our success depends entirely upon our ability to influence the final consumer. If the consumer doesn't know what product is being used, they won't care. And if they don't care, they're not willing to spend any money on that product. And until we get to a point where we have the ability to influence the consumer's buying decisions by having brand partners that are engaged, are understanding, and are trying to accomplish the same mission as we are, it's going to be a very tough uphill battle. But as this year moves on, the number of licensees that we have as an organization, the number of new brands that are coming to the table looking for reducing the story about thread count and talking instead about quality of the fabric in the sheet, or the apparel company that's coming to us and looking to say, we're trying to create the best quality product we can for apparel, that will be more durable because that becomes a sustainability story for that brand. These are the stories that are going to move ELS consumption forward going into the future.
Okay, thanks. Now, we have heard where the actual situation is, what happened the last few years, some ideas how to go forward. Now, one major question, and it was briefly mentioned by Mark, also by Mr. Wino, is the increase in characteristics and quality of the upland. And yarn numbers like 6/6, which used to be spun by ELS, nowadays can be spun by high-end upland cotton, and perhaps even higher numbers. So the question is, in the future, again 4 years from now, what will be really the need, and how much real ELS do we need for, and what is the consumption of 80s, 100s and above, where you cannot replace by upland cotton. So I would like to have start with the different panelists on my left. The question, how much ELS cotton do we really need and for in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's been a lot of talk about how upland fibers, their parameters, it's getting longer, it's getting stronger, and the micron areas is becoming more acceptable to the spinning mills. But I think we also need to recognize that the Pima that we're growing in the U.S. The fiber parameters are clearly getting better year after year. I remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would talk about how 46 staple would be the min with a 38 GPT min. And now these days we're talking, you don't really do anything. 48 staple is the minimum with a 40 GPT. And now we're getting, our crop is getting to be where it's, maybe 15, 20%. 25% 50 staple. So to kind of answer your question, I think the spinning mills if they can look at the new fiber parameters that we have for Pima, maybe they can start developing new products to take advantage of those key characteristics. But to answer your question directly, how much ELS do we need? That's a good. I mean, I remember in 2014 when the upland futures dropped and Pima was, I think, around $2.10, $2.15. To me, that was a key time, because even though the price differential between Pima and upland was 280%, 290%, we were still seeing some demand. And I, from my studies, I always think that the inelastic demand for Pima is probably right around 300 to 400,000 bells. And then I'm just focusing on Pima. Other ELS, I'll refer to the other analysts.
From an Indian perspective, just if I take Suvin as a story, I grow about 100 tons of Suvin. And most of the Suvin, I was looking outward for exports, for Japan to convert it into something, for somebody else to convert it to something. But if I look inwards, if there is a heritage in the story, the narrative has changed. This is something that I borrowed from my dad. This is a 600 count hand-spun Adi shirt. And this is a 300 count dhoti, what we call. And he uses 2 sets of it in a day, because it will all crumble up by lunchtime. He would change and all that. So he uses about 7 into 2. So it means 5 meters of fabric of Suvin is needed per session. So he uses about 10 meters of fabric. And if all the 100 tons were to be converted, I need to find 5,000 men like my dad. In a nation of 1 billion people and half of it men, it's not a big task. But I need to take it with a story, I need to build it on a heritage, and it's an easy task. And the same goes to the mills. Why do we, again, no offense, why do we need an international fiber to push your ELS story forward? There is enough people available in India, enough consumers. You tell your Indian story, your heritage story, and the demand is created. Don't wait for somebody else to create the story. We can do it. It's something that I feel can bring back the ELS, and no amount of cotton would be enough if Indians lap up to extra fine cotton. And this is tradition, and when India has come to the center stage with 7% GDP, we Indians want to be like we ought to find our own identity. We want to wear something which is what our forefathers wear. And it can be now Prime Minister Modi, the Make in India campaign, he's pushing for handloom textiles. If the handloom guys look up to ELS with Indian story behind it, no amount of cotton can be enough. I think even 1 million bales of ELS cotton would be enough. That's my take.
Very good. Thank you. Very passionate.
I agree with Mr. Mani, but as a global, textile manufacturer, we at Welspun, if the Indian customer is asking for, a dhoti made of Indian cotton, Indian sewing, we'll get it. If an American customer is asking for Pima licensing, we'll use Pima. Or a European customer is asking an Egyptian cotton, definitely. We have no bias against any cotton. We are willing to use it as long as it's genuine and it is working well with us. And yes, the manufacturing process now is looking for better strength cotton, which I think rightly pointed out. Even the Indian research has improved slightly in terms of strength and length. The Pima, of course, is good. So we are looking at the yarns running at high speed looms, and the contamination in ELS cotton is easier to handle compared to the medium staple cotton. So these are some of the advantages of using ELS cottons, and definitely we are looking at solutions to how to use the cottons irrespective of the origin. That is where as a manufacturer, and we are addressing the issue whether it can come from Egypt. We are looking forward to that, or from US, or also using Indian cotton. So the essence is the branding, maintaining the exclusivity to our customers, and ensuring what we promise is delivered to them. I think that is what is more important.
Okay, I think I give the word to Mark first.
Okay. When we talk a little bit about where the fibers are going to be used, I think alluding to some of the finer quality yarns that are being produced, the efficiencies gained by those better quality fibers are going to help. As we move into the finer counts, we understand that there's possibly less fiber going to be used because there's less weight in those yarns. But I believe also those fabric quantities will increase. On the flip side, because the ELS cotton has unique fiber characteristics and properties, the use in more coarse count yarns or mid-count yarns, I think also have a tremendous potential whether it goes into knits or more coarse or bottom weight fabrics, just from a durability standpoint, from a softness standpoint, and I think those are some of the markets that we can all benefit from, whether it's from Egypt or the Suvin. In terms of the marketplace, we still suffer a little bit from a situation where the market has been soft. We are facing a big variance between price between ELS cotton and upland cotton. We have a world cotton situation where there's a year worth of inventory for upland cotton, and the differential between ELS cotton and upland cotton has become far too big. Once we return back to more of a normal differential between that, I think that will also buoy a demand for ELS cottons once again, because that differential will shrink back to maybe that 50% level. And ultimately at some point we will get there. I don't know when that will be, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. And everybody says in the textile industry, when prices are higher, things seem to be running better. So right now we're on the low side. We seem to see more demand coming back, which means hopefully we have more price stability coming back into the market, which means hopefully that we get to see a turn in the market direction into the not too distant future.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Leta?
Let's compare about 10 years ago how much the volume of export for Giza cotton. It was around 100 to 125,000 tons, and this last year it was around 50,000 tons, and this year we are expecting 35,000 tons. What is the reason that the quantity has been decreased? I think it is a matter of trust between the buyer and the final consumer, because it's not depend about price, because everybody, they know if there is a logo or the tag of the logo Giza cotton in any store, you can buy t-shirt with $200 to $300 in Paul & Shark, in Kenya, and Zara, whatever it is. The matter today is that we have, the quality is not so good. And to be very honest, our main market is in India and Pakistan, and even in China, and to start in Bangladesh also. Before they were paying any price and they are taking a big volume. Now, no, they are looking for a cheap price only to pay because they know that they are not taking the same quality as before. So the matter is that once the quality will improve, so everybody will increase their purchase for Giza cotton. And I'm quite sure starting from next season, we'll be able to make a good volume and our buyer, final consumer will be satisfied.
Okay, so you mentioned the question of price. We have it heard several times in the last minutes. Now the price, we all know the difference between Upland and ELS, irrespective of qualities, plays also a role. Probably not for the very high end, where the price plays a very minor role in the product. But for the volume of ELS produced and sold, it is price sensitive to a certain extent. And we have seen lately that consumers around the world are using lower grades of Pima if it is pretty cheap. And even from the US we have lower grades. Now the question is, what makes, where is the limit? Let's say you mentioned 50%. Where does the Pima or ELS production really drop? When you have 100% or more? Or where do we have a huge increase, what we have once seen many years ago when it was below 100?
Yeah, I love Mr. Lukowitz. Him and I are close friends, but when he said that the spread between Pima and Upland needs to get lower, there's a part of me, the hairs on the back of my neck went up a little bit. Just to give you an understanding of our farming operation and how this drought has impacted us, and our cost of production. So yes, the diesel price is lower, and diesel is the lifeblood of our farm, and that will definitely help our costs. But to those of you that own spinning mills or any manufacturing plant, imagine running your plant at 30 or 40% of capacity and see how productive you, or how profitable you would be. Because that's exactly what we're experiencing right now with the drought. Our production has dropped by, we were producing over 200,000 bells almost 3 years ago. Now we're under 100, just over 80,000. So, and we have the gins for full production. We have all the tractors for full production. So understanding all of that and how our lack of available acres, how that impacts our costs, it's huge. So going forward, if our cost structure doesn't change and we don't receive the rainfall to where we can have bigger production and therefore reduce our overall costs, I think you will see a steep decline of Pima in California. And where that ratio needs to be, that's a good question. Right now, I would say that, it's been dropping for the last 15, 16 months, but we've seen consistent demand lately. And do we need to continue to go lower? I don't know. I would argue maybe this is a good spot.
Mark, you brought it up.
Just let me clarify. I didn't mean that Pima's going to go down. Upland has to go up.
Oh.
Okay.
I'll take that.
So, certainly I think that price is definitely one that you have to be at a viable standpoint for the grower to want to even grow the commodity. If you can't cover the costs, there's no point in growing a commodity that nobody is willing to pay for. And whether that's in Egypt or whether it's in the U.S. or in India, all agricultural producers are going to be facing the same scenario. and they're going to have to validate which crop makes money and which one doesn't. So we have to get to a point where cotton becomes a not only sustainable, in-demand product, and then also a price appropriate product for the growers to be able to produce.
Okay. Perhaps a question which goes a bit beyond. We have in the upland cotton, we have fierce competition from man-made fibers. Man-made fibers, which is in absolute terms increasing. Cotton upland consumption has not even reached the highest level we have seen a few years ago. Now, how do you see that? Could there be a development of man-made fiber which will compete with ELS?
No matter what competition we have from the man-made fiber, there's one element which they cannot replicate, which is the human and social impact that a cotton industry can deliver, which is very important for a consumer. Today, consumers are very conscious about where products, what's the story behind the stuff, what's behind my label. They've started asking those questions. Which factories are the garments being made? At what farm prices are the farmers being paid? Look at those labels like fair trade and organic and all that. People want to know the bottom of it, the storyline. So in that sense, the social impact that cotton can bring, the man-made fiber can never bring into the domain. I feel cotton, I think there'll be a resurgence sometime soon if there's a concerted effort in telling a different narrative to the consumer and bringing awareness to that product.
Again, I agree with Mr. Mani on that. But compared to the medium staple cotton, the man-made fibers have not really substituted to that level in the ELS category, mainly because of the qualities what the ELS cotton offer. And I think it would remain, the trend would remain with the customers, the way they treat the fine cottons and fine products made up of fine cottons. That is all.
Okay.
I'll just add, other than polyester, which we all know is incredibly cheap, cotton is sustainable, it's biodegradable, it's a natural product, it makes a good story, like Mr. Mani was saying, in terms of social responsibility, which are all great. The interesting thing to me is you look at some of the other man-made fibers, and they're actually more expensive than any of our cottons. So when you're talking about brands and retailers, you're pushing price points, yet somehow they find a way to utilize those fibers in place of any ELS cotton, and yet they still say our fibers are too expensive. So we still have work to do to reposition ourselves, and in 7,000 years of history of cotton on this planet, there is no man-made fiber that yet replicates cotton. Cotton is unique and special, and will continue to be so in the long term.
Now we have talked about production, we have talked about characteristics also. Now again, as you mentioned, consumption is key. How can we push consumption? Mani said we have to do advertising, we have to tell the story about, but telling the story and everything is nice, but how can we really go and see that we can produce, consume, that consumption, there will be more demand for ELS products?
I think the current government of India has already started doing the job. Make in India is a very big campaign, and the handloom sector just got about 1,400 crores for reviving handloom textile, and there's the largest consumption base there. So handloom is all about Indian ELS cotton. So I feel that the time is right. It's not like who will spend that money. Is it going to be the brand or the spinner or the ginner or anything? I think the government is already doing it. We need to go to them with a blueprint of thing where we can show we are serious. It's a combined effort. We are not individually accessing for many schemes separately, but this is something that we want for our sector, and which with cotton can survive. For India, it's a great story because everything that you do is about going to impact so many millions of farmers in this country. So we need to go with a very tightly knit blueprint. And it's easier now than 2-3 years ago.
Well, I feel again that to increase the consumption, it depends about the trust. Okay, our government already started 6 months ago to renew all the machine of the public sector for the spinning mills, because it's for a long time, and the production is only for count 20 and 30. And to be very honest, they are using Giza 86. For example, Giza 86 is usually for count 60 and 80. In Egypt, you are using for count 20 and 30. And this is something, it's not right at all. This is why they start for the government to renew the machine. We have some mills, spinning mills in the free zone that they are using the Giza 86 for their consumption, and they are making wood, they're increasing their consumption everywhere. According to the international market, I'm quite sure that they will increase their consumption once they get a good quality, and also especially that we are now pushing to make some advertising for the logo, and most of the mills are asking now to put the logo and to buy the logo is a cotton.
I think the word goes to the brand man.
Much in the same case as the Egyptians, utilizing their mark to identify their fiber. We do much the same thing. For us, the fundamental differential that makes what we do possible is finding the brand partners that become the champions for the fiber. Whether it's in the US or whether it's internationally, whether it's in the UK or Australia or Japan or even here in India, it's finding a partner that believes in the story, that wants to tell the story. Just as Mr. Mani was saying about having that authenticity, making sure that you have a story that resonates with the consumer. As a combined ELS industry, we sit on the very top echelon of the fiber producers. About 3% of the entire world's cotton production is ELS cotton, and long staple. So when you look at that as a marketplace, we only need to touch the top 3% of the retail space. It's not a very big segment that we need to reach and aspire to, but we have to find the appropriate partners in that segment that take the time to sit down, understand, and then learn how to message that story back to the customer. Because without the customer's appreciation for the product, then there's really no point. It comes down to them wanting to have the product and have a story that they can share, because it's a pride issue. It's an issue of a story, something that they can share with, that with their friends and family. It's not that they need a big logo on their shirt. That's fine. But if they can tell a better story of something that means something, whether it's an American-made story or an Indian-made story, or an Egyptian-made story, those are all things that resonate natively in each respective country, but also has a storyline that can carry out internationally, because it is a limited product.
Just adding to what has been said on the marketing front, I think the solution to driving consumption lies in producing more of ELS cotton. Doesn't matter from which part of the world. At least in India, I think the main issue is to protect the farmers who produce the ELS cotton. Now we always talk about MSP. Now the first thing they talk about is MSP for the medium staple cotton. Nobody bothers about the MSP for the ELS cotton. We don't remember when CCI bought the ELS cotton under the MSP program. So there's hardly any protection for the farmers. So it's all driven by commerce, but as long as it's driven by commerce, I think the private trade, there's no single category to be blamed, will restore to commerce only. So I think the ELS product, the cotton variety, is a suitable case where the government can protect I think the association can take up with CCI, organization like CCI, to come up with a remunerative price for ELS cotton and do the program for a couple of years. I think that will go a long way in the country to build up the production of ELS cotton and mainly maintain the purity of the cotton rather than being just driven by commerce. I think these are some of the things which can be done, which will drive the consumption ultimately.
Okay. Now we talked about branding and promoting Pima ELS products or any product produced out of long staple. Now this is not free of charge. In the US we have an organization funded by the farmers. But you mentioned in India the government. But we all know, if you want to promote, if you want to brand, you need quite a bit of money. So, do you believe in the near future, we talk again, 2020, that the respective governments, and here I talk of Egypt, I talk US, okay, we have the farmers, India, that the money will be there in one way or the other to promote, the long staple product, the ELS?
I think what we need is a trigger, and the government can be the trigger of the thing. Then you have a cascading effect. I mean, for instance, this piece of fabric is sold at 2,000 rupees a meter, hand spun, hand woven garment. And I did my calculation. For the cotton, for the yarn, it's almost like a price which is phenomenal. No mill is selling at those prices. In spite of that, we were making 100% margin. What it comes to cotton is $5.50 per pound. Come on, wherever India has exported anything beyond $3.50. So if that is the price that the market could provide, then the farmer, we can easily double the price what we are paying the farmers today. So it becomes a self-sustaining cycle. We all need is an initiative that the government can give the grand push and create an awareness platform. Then we can pick up the threads from there and build up our volumes.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the fiber should speak for itself. And anytime you have the government organizations, in my opinion, that get involved in the marketing or get involved in the production, you're inevitably going to create waste. I would prefer just let the fiber be standalone, and if it's needed in the world, let the market determine that it's needed. Having a third party support it if the market is saying that it doesn't want it, I think you're just going to inevitably, just draw out what eventually should happen.
So we know any more shot pass to the other side. Now let's first go to Egypt, and then I have another question for Mark.
About the same question about the Kumur?
Yes. In Egypt, because you mentioned also before, you went through revolution, you went through difficult times. Is the money there, or is the government really interested to spend and to promote cotton, or because they might promote food?
Sure, 100%. Now everybody knows that we already lost a big share from our chain to the international market for the cotton. And the government realized that. This is why I'm telling you that already the government, they will renew all the machines, the spinners, and they will try hard to improve the quality of the Giza cotton, and they are making a new system according to the original seed cotton. And they have enough money, to be very honest. Egypt, anytime if you need money, there is so many investors. People that are coming to Egypt to invest in Egypt for especially in the free zone, and we hope in the next 2-3 years to return back again to stop for the extra round in the international market. But it will take time. But at least we know we start with the first step, and we hope so. The first step has already started in Egypt, and we'll see what will happen in the next few years.
That sounds good. Now, to Mark, it's the same question, but you have the money, you get some money. but what could you do with 50% increase in your budget?
Well, there's lots of things one could do with a 50% increase. Our budgets are quite small because we receive our funding from the growers on a voluntary basis. We receive about 95% participation from those growers, and then we also have our licensing program where we charge an annual fee. So in combination, those are about equal on an annual basis. Ultimately, though, when you look at a consumer market, regardless of how much money we get, doing a forward-facing consumer campaign is incredibly expensive. You talk about an ad in one of the top magazines, and you're talking $100,000 to $150,000 per ad. So doing one ad is not enough. You have to be ever present. So that means you'd have to do maybe 6 ads a year so that you stay relevant in that publication. Otherwise, you're forgotten again. So if you're looking at those kinds of funds, that just one magazine that then multiplied over several publications, plus all the other activities, it would require far more greater funds than just 50% increase. So again, that comes back to, we need to have partners that become engaged in the program and the programming of identification of that fiber. And those are our licensee partners, the brands and retailers, because they are going to be out there already promoting and actively using and identifying the fiber. Leveraging our resources with them becomes a far more effective strategy to reach out to that consumer to grow that awareness.
Okay, now we talked about reaching out to partners. Now you reach out to the Supima partners. He likes to reach out to the Egyptian partners, to the Indian partners. At the end, you all compete to a certain extent.
No competition. We like everybody. It's too small. There's you can always say that there's going to be a competition. Maybe on an individualized basis, there's a decision that by a mill between using Egyptian and Supima. I don't think Suvin, just because it's so small and exclusive, if somebody's using Suvin, they're using Suvin. It's far more expensive, and there's a definitive decision made there. But between Egyptian and Supima, you will have times when you may see one chosen over another because of a price or because of one characteristic or something else, or the brand consumer specification for a product. But at the end of the day, the market for us still is that small 3%. So there is plenty of marketplace if we look at the top echelon brands and the manufacturers to accommodate every single bale of cotton produced in any of the ELS producing areas, whether it's Egypt, India, the US, Australia, Sudan, Israel. There's a big enough market for all of us. So he agrees.
We all have distinctive stories, and it's all back with heritage, American history and the Egyptian history and Indian history, and the weaving sector. When you talk about yarns, today our handloom weavers say the yarns don't feel the same way before. When my grandfather used to weave it, there's some kind of starchy feeling in it. And what he mentions by starchy feeling is the micron hair. So today when I talk about Suvin and DCH, VLS cotton, which is 3.1 mic, 3.2 mic, that would give back what he's really missing. And even the customer is missing that fineness in the fabric today. So each one of us have a different story and different take, and the customer base is different. I don't think there's any competition between us.
Again, we talked here of some of the high-end ELS products, where we mentioned before the NE60s, the lower end, might be well replaced. So I would like to go to a final round and ask everybody of you, what do you wish? Because you've seen, as I said, lower ends probably you will have less participation. So what do you wish for 2020 for your ELS product, where to be, and what do you think will be the price?
Personally, me, with what he's wearing, a Brooks Brothers jacket, probably it is already made in America. The Made in USA campaign with Brooks Brothers has started making products in America rather than shipping it to China and bringing it back. So I want such a similar story in India, make in India with Indian cotton, and people recognize the fact it's made with an Indian cotton would change the whole paradigm of what problem we are looking at today. And that's where ELS would regain its top position.
As far as the production number, I would estimate that U.S. Pima production in the year 2020 will probably be between 400 and 500,000 bales, assuming we have full water. If we're in a drought, that number could be down to 200, 300,000. I think 400,000 bales, 500,000 bales is a good equilibrium. I still think there will be demand for Pima then, even if spinning technology continues to improve. As far as a price, I was listening to some of the sessions earlier, and the outlook for upland doesn't look too rosy from a consumption standpoint, and also from a price standpoint. And even though Pima is very unique and we have our own market, we definitely are influenced by what goes on in the upland market. So if the Kotlik price is, I think I heard a very low number. I don't even know if I want to say it, but let's just say 60 cents, 70 cents, hopefully. If we can get Pima to around $1.50 back to the farmer, I think that'd be a good level.
Let's work. Mr. Vinod?
It's a bit difficult really to forecast, on the pricing. It's very dangerous too. So whatever be the pricing, it should be remunerative to the farmer. That is the number one aspect. Whether it is, it works $2 or $2.50, it should be remunerative. The main issue is, I think, the production. There needs to be solution to finding the water issue in California or the yields in India, and so some part of it, if the production goes up, even if you lose the exclusiveness, of the ELS cotton, it is fine. The output finally should go up. That is what the manufacturing industry would like, because whether the customer demands from Egyptian cotton or the Pima cotton, it is all branding. It's bound to change over the years. Indian customers may start asking for Egyptian cotton made products. It can be Indian cotton the next year. So these are branding to differentiate, these are solutions to differentiate the products. So, but overall, I think the ELS production needs to go up, and every part of the world needs to find solution to that. I think that is where is the essence.
I hope Mr. Vinod is right that we get to see a good increase in ELS production. A lot will depend, as Brad indicated, in terms of water in the U.S. We had hoped for El Nino, and it turned out to be more like El Zero. So we've gotten a little bit of water, but I don't know at the end of the day how much it's going to help. For 1 year, a little bit, going forward, we still need plenty of water. We've seen Australia in an extended drought. That's a challenge. Weather patterns seem to be changing, so who knows what is going to happen in the next 4 to 5 years. Price-wise, I can say it's going to be higher and lower. I don't know where it's going to end up by 2020, but I would have to guess that we would probably, or should be, at a slightly higher price point come 2020. The costs for producing cotton are not going to get any cheaper. Fuel, while it's low now, I don't imagine will stay down at these levels indefinitely. Chemical costs are going up, labor costs are going up, insurance costs are going up, infrastructure costs are going up, equipment costs are going up. Textiles and toys seem to be the only commodity that seems to be going the opposite direction at retail. How much lower that could possibly go, one might make a venture guess that we are at the end of that, and we've probably hit the bottom in terms of the massive efficiencies we can gain through the entire supply chain. So So I would hope that we would see slowly consumers recognizing that prices on those products to support all of our businesses will go up a little bit. So at the end of the day, I don't have an answer on any of those questions, but I do have a positive outlook. I might be a little bit biased in that opinion, but we are definitely going to be out there fighting for the health and the welfare of the entire ELS industry and for the American people around the world.
To be very honest, it's very difficult to answer after 4 years what will happen in Egypt. To answer this question, I need Mr. Darren to close the light and to bring his long so I can stay and close my eyes and I start dreaming. No, what I'm expecting that the quantity or the profit to be around 130 to 150,000 tons for Kisa cotton. And the price, I think it will be between 140 to 170. This is the level because, as we know, everything is become more expensive. And also it depends about the farmer, if he will switch from cotton to other variety or not. If he make a profit in other products, sure he will plant rice or tomato or whatever it is. And we'll wait and see after 4 years what's going on.
Okay, I really thank you all for having participated in this panel. I would like to give a big applause to all of us panelists. And let's hope the future of the Pima and the ELS cotton will be bright. Thanks. Sorry, questions?
I just wanted to ask, we've heard recently about more of this DNA testing on finished goods, particularly in the US, to verify it's 100% US people. How widespread is the testing? Is it something that the industry welcomes? Is it going to put additional costs somewhere in the supply chain? Will the consumer welcome this initiative and technological advance and verification? Will the consumer pay the premium, perhaps, it creates for that product? Just in general, because this could apply across various other forms of cotton as well, not just ELS, but so far I've heard it becoming more prominent for particularly traceability of US people.
Oh, that was a mouthful. DNA testing. So Egypt has recently rolled out their DNA genomic testing process. In the US, we have worked with a company based out of Stony Brook called Applied DNA Sciences. They have different methodologies that they are utilizing. As Supima, we have been using what is called fiber typing. And fiber typing is really an assessment of looking for blends. The feeling that there is no advantage when you're blending ELS cottons from a price advantage. You'll have more challenges if you do blend in terms of the spinning process. That the price advantage would arrive or be derived when you start blending an ELS cotton with an upland cotton. You have some limits in terms of those market segments that you can utilize in. So we've been defaulting to the fiber typing. There is another methodology called Signature T, which was developed, which is being utilized by one merchant for a various program in the home textile goods market in the US. That is beyond the Signature T, which is a DNA marker that was constructed out of biological components such that it becomes a specific sequence of DNA that you only know what you're looking for and can identify it. That process also comes with a complete SOP, standards of operating procedures, from all the way from the grower all the way through the finished product with testing at each and every phase. So it's a pretty robust program that they have implemented to supply a number of different brands. So that is a controlled and independently managed program. And then there's a future of what the genomic testing can possibly be, where you can actually test for origin, and that's still up and coming. Egypt has announced that they've got that to a component for their fibers. So I'll pass it over to you. Okay.
To be very honest, I heard about DNA the last 1 month or 2 months through Egyptian Cotton Association. It's a company that already bought the logo from Alcotexa, and they announced that they succeed to get the DNA for Egyptian cotton. And next week we have a meeting with them to know about the full information about that, because they already make some, analyze some final product with some companies or some mills, and they found they're putting the logo, but they are not using Giza cotton, and there was some penalty against these mills. When I get the full information about the DNA, sure I will send it to all our clients in all the world, and it will be official announcement.
And just to follow up in terms of your question with regards to costs and supply chain, there are certainly costs. Is the consumer willing to pay an additional cost to cover the implementation of traceability? I think that's a very tough and challenging question. The main proponent in the brand retail segment for the signature T marker has integrated it to their supply chain. They've got a very unique business model, so it's advantageous to them, and they have a very definitive traceability initiative within the organization that they want to protect and verify. So for them it works. Does it translate directly into a premium that the consumer pays? I don't believe so. Will it be something that consumers are probably going to ask for, but typically anytime there's a new test or a new requirement, or if you're checking for formaldehyde or some other chemical composition, those tests in the supply chain don't translate as a carryover cost to the consumer at the end of the day. Somehow it manages to be absorbed in the supply chain. So I would imagine that would be a similar case for any traceability DNA testing. And I also forgot to mention that the ICA Bremen was also working on a marker technology for doing traceability back to the point of origin. So, as you can see, there's multiple fronts that are developing here, and those are going to be ongoing. I think at the end of the day, the brands are going to be leading the charge in terms of having more identified traceability. They want to know where the cotton is coming from. They want to be able to tell a story about that there's reduced pesticide use, reduced water use, reduced herbicide use, that there's no child labor involved, and those all come back to a story where you can identify back to the source. So all of those seem to be gaining momentum, and we can either be in the forefront of that, or we can be in the back and having to scramble to get caught up. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. I have one comment to make, and the comment here is, we are in the new normal world. What was normal till yesterday is not going to be normal tomorrow. And that is the fundamental, I think, everyone over here and elsewhere has to keep in mind. What we have been talking, and what is unfortunate to me, is we still are basking in our old history or old glory. The world is changing, and we should know about it. There is a story to everything which we produce in the world, whether it is a mobile, whether it is digital world, there is a story, and the story is fascinating to everyone. Depending on the government support, depending on what is it called, the promotional activities, these are the tools which we all have to follow, we all have to harness. Let's say that in my state, where I come from, where we have a factory, 2 million new spindles have come in force in the last 2 years. We all talk about demand, we all talk about doing things. I agree with Vinod on one part that yes, supply is a constraint and supply needs to be increased. Demand is there, and if China is going slow, the demand is there to Vietnam, to India, to Bangladesh, to Pakistan. So demand moves, demand increases. The new normal says that disposable income, what we have seen in the last 15 years, the majority of the population in next 10 years will have less disposable income because the life expectancy has grown up. The more retired people are getting into that element of the population. I was a part of panel discussions on denim last week, and if I take a clue from there, I can try and visualize what would be the panelist in an ELS forum in next 5 years or 5 years from now. If you think 10 years or 15 years back, denim means 100% cotton. Today, the man-made fibers, whether it is a modal, whether it is polyester, whether it is spandex, they all are being used in a big way in denim. It was never ever heard about it, but the designers, it has been, like the denim has provided the innovation, the designer, it has become the darling. What Mani has been trying to say that that feel is not there because the micronian is different. Now, if you see, for anybody who is putting new spindle, there is an alternative available called microfiber. And this microfiber are going to give you handle whatever you think, because we are all obsessed with the product which we have been living, and generation after generation, we forget to think beyond. What is important is that we should start looking beyond, not underestimate anyone or any new product which is coming in the market, because it is very well researched. It is coming with little more value which we all perceive. So there are plenty of options which are going to be available to the consumer. The cost is going to be important, but the modern technology of spinning or weaving is also going to give us lots of new things to come in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for your participation this afternoon.
Thank you to all the esteemed speakers.
No, I don't have any questions. Just to inform everyone, there's a cricket match organized on the beach starting about 4 or 4:15. And whoever's interested, most welcome. Thank you.
Cricket match at 4 o'clock.